Hey, special educators, I'm Jennifer from Positively Learning. Welcome to the Special Educators Resource Room. If you're like me, you're always looking for ways to save time and streamline your work. That's why this podcast was created, to give you the systems and solutions you need to get your time back. Tune in for tips, tricks, and tools that will help you manage your workload and make the most of your time. Whether you're brand new or experienced, all are welcome in the Special Educators Resource Room. I am not sure if anyone is going to like this podcast episode because I am going to be speaking truths about what you really need to be thinking about if you are moving into a new classroom space. Maybe it's a new school or a new district, or maybe you are brand new to special education. Welcome. So why won't you enjoy this episode then? It is all about getting ready for your new space. Well, it is because I am going to be that voice of reason. You know, that voice when you are at Target and you think, do I really need this? I'm going to be that person who's just kind of spoiling the party for you. And my answer is probably going to be, no, you really don't need that. But please understand where I'm coming from. I was the person purchasing everything. I was the person gathering more and more because I was just looking for that one solution that's going to help all of my students. And now, reflecting on the other side of it, I can tell you that really doesn't exist. But that doesn't mean that you cannot enjoy this setup process. I am just here to guide you and hopefully help you make the decisions so that the environment that you are creating for both your students and you is just right. Let's get started. I'm going to walk you through an exercise. It's very quick and very simple, yet it will have a huge impact on the decisions that you're making for both classroom setup and how smoothly your classroom's going to run. You can repeat this exercise whenever you feel like something's not working quite right or you're ready for a change. I'm going to be referring to a graphic organizer. It is free on Positively Learning blog. I will put the link to the blog post in the show notes. You don't need to sign up for anything. Just click on it and download it. The organizer is a simple table. There's room for 4 rows and 3 columns. All right, so we're going to start by choosing your messaging for your classroom, meaning what type of message do you want to convey so that your students and anybody who walks into your classroom knows this message. It's front and center, whether visually, something that they hear, definitely something that they feel. So what do you want your classroom to feel like? If you're immediately thinking, I have no idea, just tell me, I've got you. All right, so if you're a new teacher, you may have done that assignment. I'm sure they still do this, where you're creating a classroom philosophy. It's all of those ideas, probably why we got into teaching in the first place. That's a great place to start. It also can develop over time. You can think about mission statements, think about other things that you've seen in classrooms that you've admired. Now, although this is such an important step, I don't want you to get hung up on it. You can always come back and adjust it. So I'm going to share my 3 messages and you're welcome to borrow them. In fact, I have this in the download. I put in my example so you can see it there. So I came up with 3 messages that were very, very important to me. And I thought if I do nothing else, these are the 3 things that I want to make sure come across to everyone who comes into my classroom. And these messages are, number 1, representation, number 2, inclusivity, and number 3, accessibility. I feel like 3 is the magic number, but of course you can do 2 or you could do 4. I wouldn't go too many more, and I would definitely do more than 1 message, even if you find that they overlap a little bit. The next step is to think about the 4 key components of setting up our classroom, like the bare minimum we need to do before we welcome students. And those 4 areas in no particular order are the visuals, furniture, storage, and materials. So on this graphic organizer, I have those 4 main categories. Then at the top, I have columns with my messages. And what I want to do is cross-reference them to make sure that they align. So for example, let's talk about visuals. That's not necessarily the most important thing about setting up our classroom. We probably should think about furniture first. However, when I'm listening in on teachers getting excited for back to school, they're often looking at classroom decor sets, and that's a lot of visuals. So I think it's a great place to start. All right, so my messages are up at the top of this graphic organizer, and I'm going to be aligning them with visuals. So let's start off with representation. I feel like this is so self-explanatory, but it's really important. Are the visuals that I am choosing to use representing all students? Are they representing the school population and the community? What about inclusivity? Are there affirming images? And not just the images in the visuals, but also the language choice. Is it grounded in respect? Now we'll look at accessibility. How is the font choice? Is it easy to read? Are the colors appropriate? Think about the color contrast. If you have a bulletin board with a white background and you're using a medium blue letters or font, is it easy to read? Is it accessible from across the room, or does it all kind of blend together? Do we need a higher contrast for students to read? Where does attention go? Is it so cluttered that attention is a little bit of everywhere? Or is it just the right amount of visuals and white space so that eyes are drawn to the important messaging? We want our visuals to be functional. Now, that does not mean boring. You can absolutely incorporate a theme and still align with your messaging. I don't want to read the rest of the table for you because I know you're going to hop over and check it out yourself, but I do want to talk about the other spaces that I have on this graphic organizer. So you know my 3 messages, and we talked about how those align to choosing the right visuals. I can also use the exact same approach with the other areas. The other areas are furniture, referring to classroom setup, definitely thinking about accessibility and mobility. Then we had storage, which is both your student storage and storage for your resources, and materials. We don't always have a big say in what materials our students are going to be using for curriculum, but we can choose picture books that we're going to be using in our classroom and still align that with our messaging. So that is it. I told you that would be a quick and easy exercise, and you can always go back and refine it if you'd like. But now, moving forward, if your school is letting you purchase anything, or somebody wants to get you something for back to school, or maybe you're shopping. I know Amazon Prime Days are coming up as I'm recording this in July of 2023. Now you can have confidence in your decision making. No more impulse buying and hoping it works out. No, you know exactly what's going to work for your classroom. Be sure to hop over to Positively Learning blog to get this free download. The first page is the graphic organizer for you to fill out. The second page is the same organizer that I filled out with the examples from this episode. Let me know if you have any questions, and have fun with the classroom setup process when the time comes. Thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you next week on the Special Educators Resource Room. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'm dying to ask, what'd you think? Be sure to hit the follow or subscribe buttons so that you never miss an episode. You can find the show notes and links for everything mentioned in this episode at positivelylearningblog.com. See you next week for more special education solutions.